Hi everybody, hello. My name is Lorna and I'm here today to talk to you about getting ready for results and clearing. So there's a whole load of you here. I imagine you're all here for slightly different reasons, but I'll talk through shortly about kind of what we're going to cover today. So this morning, if you are a university that has a university partner pack with a student room, we ran our clearing official rep training, which is specifically for official reps in the student room. But I really wanted to make sure that even if you didn't have an official rep or didn't have a university partner pack, we still had the opportunity to give you guys some really good insights. So I've taken some of the bits that Grace had put together for this morning's training, as well as just touching on everything that happened last year as well. And I think, you know, looking back at previous data is always potentially a dangerous game. And I think actually today it's quite interesting just to have a look back to see what will be different this year. Sometimes looking to the past gives you a sense of what the future will be. It's not the case, obviously, this year. It's all change. In terms of what we're going to cover today, then. So first off, we're going to dive straight in about the COVID effect. So we'll just have a little look at some conversations and some polling we've had on site that may influence results this year. We'll also then just have a look at what's popular on the student room right now. So we've got some data literally from this week, and then having a look at what's really popular at the moment as we lead up to results day. I cannot believe it's less than a month away. How does the time move so quickly? It's completely insane. Then we'll talk about a bit about making the most of TSR and the best way to talk to students right now. So of course I'm coming at it from a student room point of view, but naturally, absolutely, you know, students are the same people wherever they are. They might just interact slightly differently. So you can certainly take a leaf out of the book for any of the platforms that you might use, or of course talk to me about getting set up in the student room if you don't have that already. And then we'll just finish off touching upon a review of last year. So if you guys were around last year, if you were talking to me last year, I will have shared some data back then on the Friday, so the day after results day, just reviewing the week, results week, and kind of seeing what we've seen in terms of data and behaviour. So I'm just going to bring that back up as a reminder, and certainly I hope that we'll be providing similar kind of data this year. Also, just to say, hopefully this will be really, really useful and interesting for you. So this is being recorded, and we can that should be back on the website for any of your other colleagues to review, if that'd be useful next week. But let's dive straight in. Okay, the COVID effect. So the whole time through COVID and lockdown, we have been temperature checking the audience the whole way along. This actually takes us back to the end of March, early April, at which point we were realising that schools were locking down and exams were being cancelled completely. And so this is when we started asking students how they were feeling, what they were thinking, and what their plans for the future were. So even way back then, still 68% of students totally planning on coming to university, but 10% planning to defer or take a gap year. That's a beefy number, based on your forecasting. If you lose 10% of your applicants, that's big. And then a further 15%, almost 16% of people who were unsure, and then 4% of people not planning to come to university. I think if we fast forward now, firstly, you guys have all done an amazing job of incredible in-depth scenario planning. I actually don't think about how many scenarios you've done, but I do think you've done really great work here and some really standout comms pieces. So Bolton have done some really interesting, great video. Really recommend having a look at that. All about all the things they're putting in place about making it safe for students coming back onto campus. That was received incredibly well, and I think the more a university is able to communicate about how they're going to make it safe and how they're going to, things are not going to be normal, but here's all the things we're trying to do, that has made a massive difference. But ultimately this year is different. Now this is obviously some quantitative data showcasing 828 students and what their plans were, but there's also lots of conversation about it. So on a really, really positive note, Boulanger, or Boulanger, however you say this person's username, they are definitely still attending. Online learning is the way forward. People are going to defer for 1 year just to end up learning online in 2021. So this person, I would describe them as a cynical realist. Now maybe students aren't going to be learning all online in 2021, but absolutely this person is right. Blended learning is the future. All of our lives are going to be changed slightly from this. I certainly hope I get to work from home a little bit more, even when life is back to normal. I've enjoyed my cats hanging out all the time. But you can see here somebody's really positive. They've had 3 reps. People totally agree and are on board with that. Another person is really optimistic. So yeah, pretty optimistic I'll be able to go to uni physically by September and have lessons there, so I'm still going to go. Flutty Pie, very cute little ghost there, adorable. Absolutely, yeah. Again, another really, really positive thought here. And so you can see here, so one person is just being, you know, a realist and thinking online learning is the way forwards. Another person is being really optimistic and thinking that they'll be on campus. And certainly, I think, you know, this person, I think Flutty Pie has kind of my view, which is to say, it might be a bit different now, but ultimately it's 3 or 4 years at university, and this is just going to be one part of it. And let's be honest, if it lasts longer, if it is either it's a year and it impacts one semester, or it's longer and it's going to impact more and your whole life gets put off a little bit. So I'm down with Flutty Pie. This is totally my view. Of course, though, you do have the naysayers, the kind of negative Nellies, and the people are feeling a bit different. And so this person, question mark, Hannah, question mark, I won't be paying £9,000 for an online experience. I would rather defer and attend during 2021. Just not worth paying so much money, in my opinion. And certainly the cost factor is something that's been, you know, very, very widely considered. It's a big consideration for many, many people. And we all know full well just how much conversation and debate there is about, you know, cost of university more generally. I mean, again, we all work in the sector. We know where all that money goes. It's not wasted by any means, and it's still a struggle for many universities anyway. But you can really understand how if one expectation, they apply with one expectation and one set of kind of future experiences that they are looking forward to, and then that changes, you can really see how that could really impact their feelings about it. So that's kind of where we are, and none of that should be any surprise, but I think it's really important to set the scene in that regard. So what's popular on the student room right now? This is, you know, we've looked at the past, let's look at the moment. So at the moment, top uni course forums in the last 7 days are really interesting. So just for everyone's reference, the student room is made up of a whole load of different forums. We split the site up into different areas. So we think about uni as one area. So that's uni courses, like you can see here, uni life, student finance help. There's also the universities part of the site in terms of individual university forums, and then we also have something that's life around learning, so that's like relationships, mental health, sexual health, etc., as well as study help. So this is just focused on uni and the uni areas of the site. So medical schools are up 202%. Now it's worth saying here as well, medicine on the student room is one of our largest and most engaged audiences, and yet that's still managed to grow 202%, which is crazy. Really, really big. And I think there'll be lots of things falling into that. So first off, of course, we know the government announced 1,500 additional places. So there's more people, more students, more spaces available. So ultimately more conversation. I think also the kinds of students that apply to university and apply to medical schools are even more anxious about their future. They feel, rightly or wrongly, that there's more on the line, and probably are the kind of people that feel most put out by not having exams, because it's so hard throughout their school career to lead up to these exams, and then of course they can't take them. Other big areas, university student life, no surprise there. What on earth is student life going to look like for these students? And then we have both healthcare and nursing midwifery both in there as well. So you can see here the other thing there, so literally just looking yesterday, medical school and healthcare up 75% year on year. You can see here a really, really strong pull towards that healthcare, nursing, medical schools. Big part of that is going to be government funding, but of course also so many people have been inspired to join the NHS and inspired to change their career through COVID, and seeing just the huge impact that these people have made to all of our lives, and to the lives of our loved ones in particular, if anyone has been affected by the recent months and problems. I anticipate that will continue. I think, you know, hopefully with the bursary coming back or extra funding for nursing and other places, we should see that continue. But certainly for this year, there will be lots of students looking for places in clearing for nursing and healthcare for sure, and probably medical school as well. Medicine comes up interestingly, and when we look at a review of last year as well. Last year, of course, we saw enormous increases in the numbers of places available during clearing. 2016 was the first year, I think St George's had opened up places that were especially for BAME and WP students at that time. Forgive me if I'm wrong about the details there, but yeah, 2016, St George's opened and advertised places in clearing for medicine for what I understood to be the first time. And, you know, skip forward a few years, almost all medical schools had places available for the very best students to enter medicine last year. Really interesting. Now, unsurprisingly, we're seeing that continue. So medicine is the kind of top two in terms of discussions about clearing. This is last year. So again, which medical schools are in clearing, and UCAT 2020 entry. So these are really, really big conversations already about this year, last year. Other big conversations. So again, this is just touching on last year in terms of kind of similar trends. So law places, again, as we know, any of you that run PPC campaigns on Google know that law degree on results day goes for upwards of £100 a click. I think it's insane. Universities already have your exam results. How do you feel? I think that's really about kind of debunking the experience of what it's really like. The fact that you guys all get their results the Friday before normally, don't you? So just kind of the experience there, and also just anyone thinking about failing, missing grades, retaking, etc., etc. You can see lots and lots of curiosity, anxiety, and planning going on there last year. In terms of what students are reading now, there's a big focus already on exams for what's coming up. Now, exams next year, of course, there's the retakes in the autumn, which if you came to a recent webinar of mine, we talked about this a little bit, but it's kind of scary what students do and don't understand about the exams in the autumn. So we've recently done a piece of research, Navigating Changing Options Round 2. Anyone that came onto the Hello call on Monday will know this already, but vast amount of students don't realise that by retaking their exams in the autumn, they're missing out on joining this autumn at university. Many students think they'll be able to retake and join, which is kind of scary. But nevertheless, you can kind of see that, you know, students they're thinking, well, of course, if I'm going to have to retake, they're going to have to let me into university. That's kind of where their logic goes, rightly or wrongly. But also students are already looking ahead, already thinking about next year. So even now, you should be starting to think about year 12s and be able to talk to them on the student room right now. You know, year 12s have missed out on the best part of a semester of proper study. Not to poo-poo online learning at all, but I'm sure, you know, we've all seen probably those stats in the papers recently about just how much teaching or lack thereof these students are having. So there's a big concern in the lead up to next year and the exams, and apparently, according to a thread here, so the exam regulators considering delaying the start date. I'm not sure how true that is, but you can see that students are really, really keen, really interested and engaged about what impacts them. Similar time, so think about August last year, people knowing when A-level results day is, that's bound to be a really, really common Google search. So, you know, that will always arise really highly for the student room. Top most popular A-level subjects in 2019, and then also a big conversation about grade boundaries and clearing. And again, we'll come back to this when we have a proper session shortly about kind of more of the in-depth last year. But for any of you that remember, there was an enormous leak of exams, and also grade boundaries were in the news in a big way because maths in particular, I think it's maths, physics, and maybe chemistry, all had to be moderated down so far because the exams were so difficult. And so I think it was something like an 11% gave a pass or gave a C grade in one of the exams. Really, really crazy. So what's interesting, and I think we'll come to this shortly, but what students were most concerned about last year in terms of exam leaks, results leaks, and the grade boundaries are not going to be an issue this year by any means. But of course, all the conversations are going to be flipping to deferral, university life, what life is going to be like on campus, of course. So that's a combination of kind of what students talk about right now and the trends at the moment. So big spikes in specific course areas, particularly healthcare, and of course also thinking about university life, but also then students already thinking about exams, worrying about exams. And it's kind of similar time last year, students were worried about grade boundaries, and there was big leaks at that point. So how can you make the most of TSR, and what are the best ways to talk to students right now? So the first thing to cover off again is COVID. So at this point, students just need all the information you could possibly give them. So whether that's about, you know, plans, physical plans, like I said, the Bolton's got that fantastic video of showing what's actually going to be like on campus. It's animated and it shows all the different places for temperature checks and for hand sanitizer, everything that's going to make students feel safer and actually be safer. You know, there's a combination here of the plans that are going to make it actually safe, but also your comms plans about making sure everyone's going to feel safe and feel like it's worthwhile coming along. The calculated grade process, of course, is kind of crazy. For anyone that's spent any time on the site recently, hopefully you've had a look at the IB thread about those results. So those results came out last year. Last year? No, they didn't. They came out last week. So the IB results came out last week, and really interestingly and upsettingly, there were huge misses. Huge misses. Students predicted 42 and IB were getting 33. Massive misses, and those students, they're going to have to retake, they're going to have to do something because something's clearly gone awry. And it kind of went the other way around, students being predicted 35, 36, getting 42, 43. I mean, you know, we all know that those are big make or break differences, and the conversation has been much bigger than last year on the student room in particular. I mean, of course, it's only going to be students that are, if anyone gets what they want and is predicted, it's not really a story, is it? You know, it's not news. It's like, okay, so you're going to get 40, you got 40, great, good for you. But they're all, you know, every year there are kids that miss their grades. The fact that we've seen such an increase in conversation around that just really suggests to me we're going to see a similar thing for A-levels and probably GCSEs as well. For any of you that do early engagement with GCSEs, I definitely recommend being on site this year, the following week as well. So this is going to be a really big topic of conversation, and there's going to be, I think also, if there are those big discrepancies in the way that there were with IB, we'll see that on site, and I think also it's going to take students a while to work out what the right thing for them is, and potentially also for you guys as well, you know, your admissions teams, your admissions colleagues working out what it really means if you've got all these students who should have been getting triple A's, getting triple B's, and all these students who should have been, you know, you offer them B and a C and they get amazing grades. It's going to be a really strange, interesting time, and because of that, the likelihood is that results and clearing is going to be a lot of a longer process. You know, many of you will be normally done and dusted by 12 o'clock on the Friday. That's just not going to be the case this year. A big other thing here to be aware of is like just that sheer lack of face-to-face support on results day. So whilst some schools may open so students can go in and get their results in person, it's not going to be like maybe for, you know, the way that we had it, where we all kind of go in and where our friends are there and we get to chat for ages with our teachers, almost like the last time that you see them. That's not going to be there, and so students that either do, you know, really well or really badly, the commiseration support there isn't going to be there. What does that mean then? Across all of these pieces, you need to be even friendlier, even more supportive, even more patient, even more interested in them as people, and just be there to be helpful. BCU, just to kind of a flag for them, I think they do some really, really great things around being helpful. Last year they had a dedicated line for students to call about anxiety around clearing, which was really lovely. Those things, you can bring those back this year if you can do anything that's going to support students and make them feel that they're not alone and that there's somebody that cares about them, will be really powerful. Really powerful. So let's go into something a bit more tactical, specifically thinking about life on a student room. So in terms of clearing, if you have a university partner pack in your forum, make a clearing thread straight off the bat, 100%. That means, and also let us know that you've made it so we can stick it at the top of your forum so that if anyone comes to your forum, they see it straight away. Perfect. This is great in lots and lots of ways, both the audience organically on the site already, anyone that's searching for you and finds this, fantastic. Be super informative, supportive, like we've talked about before. Make it really clear that you are happy to answer questions about the process online on the forum. This is where these students spend an awful lot of time. I'd also say ask student questions as well. I mean, this is any of you that have ever had training with me about the rep, you'll know, never finish with hope it helps, always finish with a question on any social media platform when it's a public response. And then finally, if you do have specific updates about COVID, include links to find that out there, or anything that you think is, you know, that you're able to share without a link, put it on that on your clearing thread, 100%, because you want to say we've got opportunities and you want to say it's safe and we're the right place despite COVID. I think also there is space to be light-hearted while being informative. So you can be really practical here. So you can provide information about, like it says here, the local area, public transport, you know, kind of like nights out, or even what the student union is trying to do to make, you know, maybe reorient the social life online. Absolutely, talk about those things and make it really clear that you're happy to answer questions about everything, about all of this stuff. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Do not finish a response by saying, hope it helps. Finish a response with a question. So, for any of you that have not heard my spiel about this before, when you are talking to somebody on an email, it's one-on-one, and it's really easy to just be like, here's your answer, crack on. On the student room and on any other social platform in which you're responding publicly, your response is not just for that one person, your response is for everybody, and you want to be seen to be building a relationship and caring about that person individually. The more information you can get out of somebody, the more questions you can ask somebody, the more information they'll give you, and the more engagement that you'll get, and the more exposure you'll get in terms of your responses. It's a no-brainer. Never say hope it helps. Always say, hey, do you want to do this course? What's interested you in Goldsmiths University? What would you like as part of your social life? Ask questions, be engaged, and be invested in that person. In terms of helping applicants make informed decisions, so there's going to be absolute buckets of conversation about courses, locations, subject areas, going home, moving away, accommodation. And so certainly when it comes to courses and making a decision at this point, actually just a really interesting point here. So we, as you all know, we have a bespoke clearing database. This opens in April, and we ask students, hey, are you interested in clearing? Sign up. So we have a dedicated database of students who are interested in finding out more from you guys about options in clearing. This year we implemented another option. So rather than saying, rather than asking what course they're interested in, and saying, so previously we've had an option that says I don't know, and this year it switched to I'm open to many courses. So the growth is something like 700% of people. There's lots of people that they have an idea. It's not that they don't know completely, but they're very open to lots of different options during clearing. And it's really interesting just how many people you could influence into choosing a course that maybe wouldn't normally do super well. People are really open to it. So thinking about this, and again, when it comes to specific courses, you want to be friendly and informative. And of course, you can just send a link to the course page, but anything you can provide in that moment is really, really powerful. Jodie, thank you so much for your feedback. That's really helpful. So Jodie's just said, very new to working on the student room. And your general advice is so useful and eye-opening for when replying to students. Thank you. My great pleasure. And so, yeah, in the Q&A, I just had a request to repeat what I said about asking questions. So if you work in student recruitment or inquiries or admissions, I imagine you're really, really used to talking to students on an email. And so when you're talking to students on an email, normally the goal is we want to answer their question, make sure they have the information, then move on, because there is just so many questions coming in. I really know just like the sheer volume of inquiries you guys are getting. I know that's really tough. When it comes to the student room or any public responses on a social media platform, which could be a review page, it could be Instagram, it could be Facebook, it could be, whatever it is. If it's public and you're responding publicly, it's really easy to fall into the trap of finishing by saying, hope it helps. Maybe a student asks, what are the grades needed for this obscure music course? And you respond and you say, ABC, hope it helps. That is fine, you have done the job. Now making it better is saying, the grades are ABC. This is such an interesting course. Why are you interested in doing this? What do you study now? What music, what instruments do you play? By doing that, firstly, you are expressing an interest in them individually and personally and building a relationship rather than just being a conduit for information. It stops being tactical and it starts being strategic. And also, because it's public, you can, all of the other people on the student room, for every single post, 200 individual people at least see that. So you're not responding to one person, you're responding to everybody that's looking. Really, really powerful. I hope that answers your questions, both Jodie and I'm so sorry. All right, there we go. So it's also really, really valuable to kind of provide alternatives where students are just never going to get into the course. You know, they've missed their grades by a big, big margin. You can provide alternatives that's really straightforward and gives them options. But you can also then see here, these are the kinds of questions you're going to be seeing that we have in the student room, but you're also going to have those on other platforms coming to you direct on the phone, via email. This person has very specific questions, but they also have a query about the process as a whole. So again, really a great opportunity for you to make things simpler and clearer. So those are kind of some ideas about engaging with students in the student room. If you have an official rep, hopefully you joined the training this morning. If you don't have an official rep and you would like to be able to talk to students on the site, please let me know and we can certainly set you up with that. There's a cost, we'll talk about that at the end as well, but certainly let me know. At this point, let's just have a quick look at 2019. This is our last section, and then we come on to a Q&A. So anything you would like to know, anything you're thinking of, or anything we haven't touched on you wanted us to talk about today, please add it in the Q&A. Really, we should have, oh my gosh, for once I'm bang on time. We should have at least 10 minutes at the end for questions, and I'm really, really happy to help in any way that I can do. There's lots of data that we sit on that I'm not sharing here because it's so much detail. So yeah, certainly if you've got any questions, please ask. Okay, so let's look at last year then. Last year on the student room, we had over 500,000 unique users on results day alone, which was, you can see this here, 1.5 million page views, almost 900,000 page views on just the education forum part of the site. So that's uni courses and applying to university. And amazingly, you guys are bloody awesome. You are, like, all of your reps were fantastic, and so last year we saw a huge increase in official rep engagement, and really helped. We had so much fantastic feedback both from users and also from you guys as well about the power that you guys had on the student room. And then finally, as part of that, you know, like 500,000 users and 1.6 million page views, that transpired into 32,000 hours spent on the site, which is many lifetimes. Absolutely insane. So that's kind of last year on the student room as a really broad guide. On the site itself, though, we also saw, like, you know, in terms of that time, we saw a big increase in dwell time, and in particular, a big increase in university course page views. Now, for any of you that came along to, this is going back a long time, but we ran an intro to clearing session webinar way back in, I think it was February, before lockdown, of different lifetime, wasn't it? So at that point, we'd actually done a piece of research asking students what happened after clearing. What was really interesting is we saw a huge increase year on year of students saying that they had changed their mind about their course or their university. And that's really reflected in the behaviour on the site as well. So what's interesting for me now, coming back to this, is connecting the work we did after clearing, but also the behaviour at clearing at the time. So we saw an increase in people switching their course and changing their mind about the subject area they wanted to study, but also the behaviour on site really reflected that, and we saw more and more people spending time in those university course pages in the student room. So if you are lucky enough to have reps on the site, certainly get them into specific course areas. If you have faculty staff that can help out here, maybe you've got amazing student ambassadors that absolutely love their course and want to tell everybody about their, I don't know, virology thesis, something obscure like that. Get them on the site. You know, passion goes such a long way, and students are really powerful in that way. Students, staff, anyone that's got a real interest or knowledge about that subject area. If there was a 9% increase last year, it's going to be even higher this year. We're already seeing, again, our Navigating Changing Options report. If you would like to see that, please get in touch with me about that. So yeah, Navigating Changing Options showed that because of COVID, students are more likely to be changing both, you know, their decision based on location and being closer to home, and also even their subject area, which is crazy. And maybe we're seeing that in healthcare as well. Maybe we're seeing students moving away from business to becoming a nurse. That's right. I'm just going to get rid of lockdown, working from home. Okay, so really interesting change of behaviour on site. In terms of what we're seeing in terms of increases last year, so this is just results day, we saw a really big increase in vet med, As far as I'm aware, there wasn't any actual vet med courses, but I think there were vet bio, lots and lots of vet bio courses available in clearing, but big growth there. Law, I was actually shocked to see law grow quite so much, given how big of an audience law normally is over clearing. Ore, you asked, and please forgive me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but you actually asked in relation to this. So I mentioned something about law course and £100. So do you remember what I said? Yes, I do. So for many clearing campaigns, marketing clearing campaigns in particular, you're likely to have a really robust PPC Google AdWords strategy. Google AdWords, for anyone that doesn't know, works on the basis of you bid on keywords, and Google is like, okay, cool, well, no one else bids on it, you can totally have it for 50p or 2p or 0.2p. The more competitive a keyword is, the more people bidding on it, the higher you have to bid, and the more money Google's like, can't have that, mate, I'm so sorry, you need to spend more. So in the past, last year, previous years, when I worked at universities, law degree as a search term on results day, per click it was over £100, which is insane. Huge money. I mean, but also if it turns into a student, maybe it's well worth it. Hopefully that answered your question, Ore. And if anyone has paid £100 per click for a law degree, please let me know. And maybe I'm sure it's, you know, I'm sure it may have worked. But certainly if you'd like to reach law students, please give us a bell, because our SMSs are cheaper. And that's actually, we don't have law left. But anyway, if you would like to do an SMS on results day, it works out way cheaper than AdWords, way cheaper. You can see other big areas of growth here. Google, yes, all right, Google got that £100. Yeah, Google owns it, Google runs it, Google takes all that money. So just for everyone's benefit, Ori just asked, did Google get that £100 or did it go to a normal person? Ori, it went to Google. Google takes all the money. Okay. Now, I think these are really interesting. Perhaps, again, economics and PPE maybe we're clearing more than last year. This year, I really anticipate this being the big increases continuing like we've seen already around those healthcare areas, for sure. Now, this for me is one of the most interesting points. And so John, who is a fantastic SEO dude, always does a bit of analysis of what people are searching for, that kind of more around clearing, the big course areas. So first off, 2018, interestingly, Northern Ireland was the highest density of clearing searches. Last year was England. But what's really interesting is kind of here, like the related topics. So in 2018, it was, you know, anyone that has worked in HE since as long as 2018 or before, many of us are lifers. You'll remember that 2018 was a really bog standard year. It was just bigger than ever. 2016, 2017, 2018, pretty bog standard, just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Last year, there were two big differences. So first off, self-release kicked in, but also, as I've mentioned before, there are really big releases and leaks of exams, grade boundaries, etc. And so whilst in 2018 we saw lots and lots of conversations, searches for specific universities, last year we saw a lot about exams. And my advice last year was to use that kind of bid on these search terms, bid on exam search terms. It will, and of course that would backfire for you if you did that now, because there were no exams. But I think the point here is that results for students is not just about university. Now, don't get me wrong, university is a really big part of it, but the amount of students that are like planning to go through the pain of redoing their exams in the autumn because they're so desperate to feel proud of themselves. Desperate's a horrible word, because they really want to know that what they've got in their exams is what they deserve. There's so much pride involved. There's so much work. You know, it's all of their schooling up until that point has led them to those exams, and then they don't get to take them. So I would certainly recommend thinking about what else is going on in students' heads other than just your courses or you or your location. Think about deferrals. Think about autumn exams. Think about those things. And think about the content you can provide around that. So, you know, there are going to be vast amounts of searching for autumn retakes. Bid on those things, provide content as for reasons that students should continue to stay at university this year and not do retakes. I think. I mean, I just think if they get, if these students get into the university of their choice, whether it's their first choice or insurance choice, it's crazy for them to pause for a year. We don't know what this year is going to be like, and being at university, whether it's blended or on campus, is going to be the best option for sure. If they want, if university was part of their plan anyway. So really interesting changes. And then also they're just, big search terms overall. So top search terms when it comes to universities themselves. So this is the overall. So Birmingham was number 1. I guess also Birmingham has got a really high density of universities more generally. Newman, Aston, BCU, Birmingham, and then lots around the West Midlands is just chock-a-block of universities. You can see, lots and lots of things there. But I think what's interesting is rising search times. So where the difference is for the difference year on year. So Manchester had a lot higher than previous year. King's College had a lot higher, and a lot of this will be BCU had a lot higher, which is awesome to see. I think sometimes it can really feel like Russell Groups dominate this, and Russell Groups, well done. You guys are obviously awesome, but I think it's really nice that we also see a broader range and a broader breadth of unis. Again, what's really interesting here is of the primarily non-Russell Group universities we see in this mix, Aston and BCU both come up really highly. I mean, I'm from Birmingham, maybe I'm just biased, I don't know. But yeah, really great to see so much from Birmingham and the West Midlands there that maybe not your traditional unis. I wonder what they're doing so well. Okay, so getting involved in TSR, we've kind of talked about where we are in terms of COVID and how students are impacted. We've talked about the kinds of conversations that go on the student room and how you can respond in the most effective ways. And we've also had a look at last year. Now, you guys, there's loads of different channels and platforms that you guys can use. Obviously, for me, working at the student room, I just want to talk to you a little bit about the best ways to get involved in TSR. If you're not doing it already, let's just have a look. It's lots of different unis. I think a lot of you actually, looking through all of your lovely names, again, thank you so much for being here. Loads of you already do have a University Partner Pack, which is amazing. So if you don't have a University Partner Pack, however, this is a fantastic tool for you to firstly have an enhanced profile in the student room. You also get to have your forum completely roadblocked by your own ads so that none of your competitors can target you in there. But really important, and I think this time of year, this is where it's really powerful. You have access to 3 official rep accounts, for which we give you bespoke training, weekly training if you would like it, the ability to talk to students directly on the site and convert them on site. It's really fascinating just seeing students and seeing parents as well on the site, teachers all talking to you guys and being influenced to join your universities. So that's one really fantastic way of engaging on the site. There is a cost to it. Absolutely get in touch if you'd like to take that up or just want to hear what the cost is, and we can talk about it a bit more. And then just the other thing to note is that we do have a few bits still available. So I've mentioned SMSs, really fantastic. We are able to run SMSs this year on results day, which is amazing. So normally we don't do it on results day at all, but we are able to run the results day, and we have a few left. As I mentioned, they work out way cheaper than AdWords. And we also have a few emails available still as well. So because there's just a few available, absolutely please get in touch. There's some really, really valuable discounts available at this point. I'm sure many of you are sorted, but hopefully if you would like anything or need anything last minute, then we can give you some really good prices, which is handy. Okay, so I've answered the questions as I've gone along because they've been really pertinent to the moment, but I'm going to open the floor up for everybody. What would you like to know? Anything that you feel has been missing? Is there anything that you want to know more generally about clearing, about TSR, or about our data? I hope that can help. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes, so if anyone would like to write questions, whack them in the Q&A. Well, hopefully, and no questions coming through, hopefully it means I have answered all of your questions and hopefully provided a lot of value. Oh, here we go. Okay, so Alexandra asks, any thoughts on providing clearing information for parents and carers? Yeah, so we have a section of the site called the Parent Room. And I think the biggest challenge is actually about finding ways to connect with them, because unlike students where you'll be targeting them year round for for clearing, for open days, for applications, you don't have that database and bank of parents in the same way. So I guess, again, thinking about what a student's going to be looking for on behalf of their kids. Perhaps they don't understand clearing, and so the content there and the ideas there are around you providing content that's most relevant and beneficial for parents that don't understand clearing. Perhaps they did know what clearing was back in the day, but of course it's changed. And perhaps it's just about being where they are. Mumsnet is a good shout. The parent room on the student room, we do have a database of parents, and certainly if you're spending any time on the site, you'll notice that they do crop up. It's very interesting that lots of parents identify by saying, oh, my son is doing this, my daughter's doing this. It's not on the parent room, they're everywhere else. So I think it's, in terms of my advice about providing information for them, it's really about putting yourselves into their shoes about what they do and don't understand and what they're going to need. If you provide the right content, it will come. And of course, get into the parent room, or talk to me about maybe ways you'd like to talk to them on TSR as well. I hope that helped, Alexandra. I want to call everyone Alex if I call Alexandra. Sorry about that. Overly familiar. Ari, got another question again. I love how many questions you've got. So how do you handle all the questions coming in during busy periods? So thanks, Alex. So Ari asks again, how do you handle all the questions coming in during busy periods? So at the student room, we are very, very lucky to have a huge, almost 100 strong team of volunteers who help to moderate the space. So as you can imagine, the student room is full of vulnerable young people, kind of anyone under the age of 16 or 16 under, we consider vulnerable anyway, and super impressionable, and loads bubbling on in their heads, and not to stereotype these young people, but hormones going wild. So we are really lucky to be supported by a great bank of volunteers who keep it a really, really safe space. And so that's a big way that we handle a lot of the questions coming in, but also because the site is there's so many of you guys, so many fantastic official reps, and also just loads of students on the site. So for those of you that don't know, there's 8 to 10 million users on the site every single month. Insane. And so a lot of it is also, lots of questions are answered by the official people like you guys, but also really supported by other students and parents and other applicants who perhaps feel maybe more confident in responding and answering those questions, and maybe have the knowledge, maybe they've been through it themselves and shared that. So in terms of us handling all the questions, that's how we do it. In terms of you guys prioritizing questions and having the ability to respond so much, or maybe perhaps you're really inundated maybe at the moment on the student room. So I guess a big part of this is thinking about your strategy. If anyone came to my strategy session yesterday, we talked about a strategy being the decisions and basically about your priorities and where your focus is. So in terms of handling all the questions, you don't necessarily have to handle all of them, but perhaps work out what your priority is here. Do you want to make sure you answer all the questions about subject areas and courses? Do you want to make sure you answer all the questions specifically about your university? Do you want to make sure you answer all questions in your forum? You can narrow it down in those ways, and so that will really help you in terms of prioritization, but also just looking aside time and seeking out support from wider areas. And student ambassadors are fantastic. I really loved running the ambassador scheme for marketing when I worked at university, and I'm sure you guys have some really fantastic students. Ambassadors, just the best. Love them. All right, I really hope that answered your question, and hopefully it was useful for you guys as well. So Nicola asks, how do you create a clearing thread? So Nicola, I wonder, I'm not sure. So Nicola, I'm really not sure. I'm not sure what university you work at. So if you work at university with a university partner pack, you'll have an official rep already. And so using that official rep, you can start a thread in your forum. So you just go in and you click start a conversation, and that's where you can start your clearing thread. If you don't have an official rep already, chat to me and we can get you set up and get you sorted. If you have created a clearing thread but it's not at the top of your forum, you can email clientservices@thestudent.room.com and they will stick it at the top for you, and that means that everyone when they come by will be able to see it. Hopefully that answered your question. Oh, loads of questions. Thanks, you guys. Almost all of them. Ori, I love it. Thank you so much. I'm going to give it another just 2 minutes about anything that might be interesting for you, useful for you, about platform, channels, strategy, or anything else. But while we wait for any more questions as they come in, we have another webinar coming up on the 22nd of July. So this is going to be run by my colleagues Hulda, Babs, and Amy. So they are a fantastic group of people who have been putting together this really fantastic new session of the ability for you to test your clearing creative more and more and more. So it's something called Vote and Tell, and the session is all about kind of enabling you to get the best feedback and optimize your prospective creative. That'll be really good. I can't remember the time, but it's 22nd of July. The page that you guys have been signing up for these webinars, please just check it out there. It's on there. And all of the past webinars are also on the site as well. So if you've missed, I've just referenced the throughout this, the clearing session that we started off with. Oh, fantastic. Marissa had just put the link into the chat, which is fantastic. Thank you so much. What is the name of it? That's a good question. Marissa, what's the name of the webinar? I think I just called it Vote and Tell, but I think it's optimizing your perspective.
It is, yeah. So the name is How to Optimize Your University Prospectus Creative. It's a very long, wordy title, but it was the best thing. I'm actually going to copy and paste the details here as well. Yeah. So what I've done is I've included the link so you can sign up. We're quite excited about that webinar, and but there are some previous webinars as well, videos and assets for them too. So yeah, a lot going on at the moment.